So I've got this lens from Canon New Zealand to test to see if it's right for me, basically. As you can see, it's got one of their stickers on it. I normally shoot with a 300 2.8 on my Nikon cameras when I owned the Nikon cameras, and now I've switched to Canon. I need to find the lens that fits into that category, basically. They do make a 300 2.8 EF lens, which I am looking at as well, but I thought I would test this lens to see if it fits my needs. This is a Canon RF lens, so it will only work with Canon mirrorless cameras and a couple of RED cameras. It will work with the Canon RP, R, R5, R6, R5C, which I'm recording on now, and also on the Canon C70 cinema camera, which is the B camera. It will also work with my Red Komodo, and it will work with the Red V Raptor. Now, it is a zoom lens, so it goes from 100 to 500mm, and it's a variable aperture. So at 100mm, it's f4.5, and as you zoom all the way out to 500mm, it's f7.1. Now, what does variable aperture mean? Basically, the aperture will change as you zoom in and out. So at 100mm, the fastest aperture on this lens is 4.5. And as you zoom all the way out to 500mm, the fastest aperture is 7.1. Now, I always suggest to people, if you're going to shoot a variable aperture zoom lens, to shoot in shutter priority and auto ISO. So you can set your desired shutter speed, and as you zoom in and out and the aperture changes, the ISO will take care of everything for you. It's a really convenient way to shoot one of these lenses. This is a very compact lens for a 100 to 500mm. It's quite light too, it only weighs 3 pounds, and I have to say it does balance really well on the R3, which is the camera I tested with this lens. So let's talk about some of the features on the lens. At the back of the lens you have a metal mount and you have a rubber gasket, so it's weather sealed. You have a control ring, which is this ring here, which you can assign to anything you want in the camera, ISO, shutter speed, aperture, anything like that. Then you have this really nice tripod collar, which is actually removable. So it will actually make the lens even more compact. Personally, I do like to keep the tripod collars on. Very easy, just pull that pin, lock it in, and turn it like that, and it's done. Now you have your focus ring, which is very, very smooth. You have your full to a limit on your focusing distance, so you can have full focusing from its closest focusing all the way to infinity, or it can start from 3 meters to infinity. You also have your AF to manual, and you have your stabilization switch there. Now this ring here is kind of a lock-in ring for the zoom, but it doesn't fully lock the zoom. So at the moment the zoom is very tight, and as I turn this, it actually gets very loose. So you can actually set the zoom the way you want, basically. If you like it tight or if you like it loose, you can use this ring here. This ring is also to stop the front of the element dropping down the lens, because if I undo it like that, you'll see it will slowly come out. You have this really nice big zoom collar here, a lot of rubber on there, and it's very easy to zoom this lens. It was very comfortable to zoom it in and out. And on the front, you have a 77mm front filter thread. You have a plastic lens hood, which locks on nice and tight, and it has a release button here, so it's not going to fall off. You have this little window you can open up here. Now what this is for is you can control your polarizer or your ND. You can open this window up and just scroll your ND inside there, or your polarizer. So the original plan was to go out and shoot some sports with this lens, but there's not much happening in New Zealand at the moment. So the backup plan was to take our son Jack to Auckland Zoo. The only problem with Auckland Zoo at the moment is about 50% of it's closed for refurbishment, but the African zone was open, so I was able to get some photos with my Canon R3. Now some of those photos will be available for you to download. They'll be in a Dropbox folder, and a link to that Dropbox folder will be down below in the description. Now I really like this lens. The focusing is incredibly fast, and it is very sharp from 100mm all the way up to 500mm. Now previous lenses I've used with variable apertures from Nikon tend to be a little bit soft at the maximum reach of their zoom. this lens is not. At 500mm, it's incredibly sharp. As you can see from these two photos, you can get really close to your subject. This first photo was shot at 100mm. And as I've zoomed all the way into 500mm, you can see you can capture a lot of detail. Now let me show you something. This is a print I did from the photo at 500mm. I don't know if you guys can see that on there, how sharp and how nice that looks. Even though the lens is only a 7.1 aperture at 500mm, you still get separation from your subject and the background. Now what shocked me the most about this lens is how good the lens's stabilization is combined with the Canon's R3 in-body stabilization. Now I shot some video handheld at 500mm. As you can see, this lens works incredibly well for both photo and video work. I will be more than happy to use it on a client shoot for photo and video and not have to take a monopod or tripod with me. It's very compact for a 100 to 500mm zoom and it only weighs 3 pounds, which makes it a great lens to travel with. I can easily fit this in my carry-on luggage. It also works with Canon's new RF 1.4 and 2x teleconverter. If you put the 2x teleconverter on this lens, it turns it into a 1000mm lens. That's not something I would do personally, but maybe it's something you would do. So that's it for this mini review on the Canon RF 100 to 500mm lens. Don't forget, if you want to download some of the photo samples, there is a link to a Dropbox folder down below in the description. As always, thank you so much for watching.